Alright, people, we will continue with the acids, bases, and salts. Now we are going to study closely the properties of acids. Okay, so what properties do acids have? Okay, now some general, very general properties, as we have discussed earlier as well. The general property of acids, is that they have a sour taste. Okay, see, when we study properties, there are some physical properties and there are some chemical properties. So we have to be very precise about both of them. So physical properties and chemical properties are the ones that we have to study. So if we have considered the physical properties of acids, they generally have a sour taste. Okay, for example, Nimu, as we say, lemon, that has a sour taste because citric acid is present in them. Raw mangoes is having a sour taste again because citric acid is present in them. So acids generally have a very sour taste. Okay, what else do we have about acids? So acids, we have learned that they turn blue litmus red. Okay, so this is something that we have already considered, whether it is blue litmus solution or whether it is blue litmus paper. It converts both of them to red. Blue litmus turns red in the presence of an acid. What else do we have? Acids basically turn blue litmus red and they conduct electricity. Okay, acids conduct electricity. Now we need to understand this. Electricity is conducted due to two reasons. Okay, electricity is conducted due to flow of electrons. This is flow of electrons, okay, which happens in conductors. For example, all metals basically are good conductors of electricity. Okay, why? Because they allow the free flow of electrons through them. So all metals generally are very good conductors of electricity because of allowing electrons to flow through them. So that is called flow of electrons, which is present in conductors. However, in acids, the electricity conduction is due to flow of ions. Okay. So it is not electrons, but it is flow of ions. Ions are formed in acids. For example, when I dissolve HCl in aqueous medium, HCl in aqueous medium, obviously it should be dilute or concentrated. So we generally do not write aqueous medium, okay, for acids. Why? Because acid has to be in aqueous medium. It depends whether it is dilute or concentrated. So either we will write dilute or we will write concentrated. That's how we treat acids. Okay. So acids can be written either as dilute or concentrated. So when we are talking about dilute HCl or concentrated HCl, that's how we take this. Okay. Now when we dissolve this in water, what will happen? This will dissociate into H plus and Cl minus ions. So these are ions. Again, if we have, let's say, H2SO4, okay, obviously when we dissolve it in water, it gets dissociated into 2H plus and SO4 2 minus ions. Okay. Again we have nitric acid. Okay, nitric acid gets dissociated as H plus and NO3 minus ions. So this is basically the division of, or rather dissociation of ions, and these are the ions which are responsible for the flow of electricity in electrolytes, or we could say that acids conduct electricity. Acids conduct electricity because of, you have to know the reason why they conduct electricity. In metals, the conduction of electricity is due to the conduction of electricity is due to free flow of electrons. However, in acids, the conduction of electricity is due to free flow of ions. Okay, that's something that we need to consider. Okay, so what is the third thing that we have about? So it has sour taste, it has blue litmus going red. What else do we have about acids? Acids. So we can say acids turn. Okay, the fourth property. Okay, the fourth property is when we basically treat an acid with a metal. Okay, so metal, reaction with metals. Now we are coming to basically the chemical properties. Okay, although that can also be concerned as a, or rather treated as a chemical property. Okay, these are more or less physical properties. Okay, in this case, the reason why we can treat it as a chemical property, see, basically when we study metals, we study physical properties and chemical properties, and in physical properties we study whether the metal is a conductor or basically a semiconductor type metal. Okay, so that is, the conduction of electricity is considered as a physical property. However, when we study acids, we also take this as chemical property because it's as a result of a chemical dissociation that is happening. Okay, So sour taste, blue litmus test, again acids conducting electricity, all these are basic properties. In also acids we have metals. Metals when they react with acids, they form metal salts plus hydrogen gas is liberated. Okay. Now, how do we detect the hydrogen gas getting evolved? Hydrogen gas basically is a colorless gas. Hydrogen as a gas is a colorless gas. It's a colorless gas. It's an odorless gas as well. So how do we know that the gas which is getting evolved is hydrogen? How do we know that the gas which is getting evolved is hydrogen? If we bring, so wherever the gas is getting evolved from, so H2 gas is getting evolved here. If we bring a lighted matchstick close to it, basically hydrogen gas burns itself. Okay, hydrogen gas burns itself. Hydrogen gas burns itself with a popping sound. Like a Diwali cracker. Okay, those small crackers that you have, popping sound. So when you bring a lighted matchstick close to a place where hydrogen gas is getting evolved, it will burn with a popping sound. Okay, so this is basically a popping sound that is produced. So metals plus acids will give you metal salts plus hydrogen gas. Okay. Now let's say we will take an example. Let's say for example zinc. Zinc is a metal. Okay, zinc is a metal. When we are treating the zinc metal with, let's say, hydrochloric acid, this is hydrochloric acid, and this hydrochloric acid, let's say 2HCl, or rather let's say we'll balance this later. So Zn plus HCl, this will give you zinc chloride, that's a salt. Zinc chloride, that's a salt. Okay. See, we need to be very precise about what is a salt. Salt is not something which is salty in taste. Salt basically means something which is a combination of a metal and a non-metal, or rather a combination of a positive and a negative radicals. So this is basically a salt, ZnCl2, and hydrogen gas is evolved. Okay, hydrogen gas is evolved, which we are going to confirm with a lighted matchstick, which will give us a popping sound. Okay, now let's look at the balance. Zn, we have Zn. Cl, obviously it is not balanced, so we put 2. Now it gets balanced. So it's a balanced equation. Okay, so we have different metals. Whenever we are treating metals with acids, we will get a metal salt. So let's say if I treat zinc again, or let's say we take some other metal, let's say sodium, and this is getting treated with H2SO4 sulfuric acid. So we are treating sodium with sulfuric acid. What do we get? Na2SO4, that is sodium sulfate, Na2SO4 sodium sulfate plus H2. Okay, so just to balance this, 2Na plus H2SO4. This is basically what? Sodium. This is sodium. This is sulfuric acid. This is sulfuric acid. We can take it in the dilute form. Here also we can take it in dilute form. Okay, this will form sodium sulfate, which is a salt. This is sodium sulfate, which is a salt, and hydrogen gas is getting evolved. So metal, when you treat it with acid, be it dilute or concentrated, we will get metal salts plus hydrogen gas. Generally, we take it in dilute form. Metals are reactive and so are acids. So metal plus an acid will generally give you a metal salt plus HCl, metal salt plus hydrogen gas. Okay. So hydrogen gas, how do we test it? By means of a lighted matchstick. If you bring it close to the test tube which is evolving hydrogen gas, it will burn off with a popping sound. Okay, I hope this is clear. Let's look a little hodgepodge, but then still you can take a snapshot of the same. Okay, now we are going to consider certain other properties of acids as well. Okay, just give me one moment here. So we are going to consider certain other properties of acids as well. One second here. So talking about the other properties of acids, we have already learnt that acids have a sour taste. we have already learnt that acids turn blue litmus red. We have also learned that acids react with metals to form hydrogen gas. Now we are going to turn around with other things. Okay, so metals part is over. Now we will talk about metal carbonates. Okay, metal carbonates. So basically these are what? These are carbonate salts of metals. Okay, so metal carbonates plus acid. If we treat metal carbonates and acid, what do we get? We get again metal salt plus carbon dioxide, which evolves in the form of a gas, and a water. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to get: metal salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. So let's take an example here. Let's say, for example, we have Na2CO3, which is basically a metal carbonate, and that's sodium carbonate. This is basically sodium carbonate. We treat it with acid, which is, let's say, we can take any acid. So let's say we are taking here hydrochloric acid. Okay, so this is dilute hydrochloric acid, that is dilute hydrochloric acid. When we treat it with this, it will form sodium chloride, which is a metal salt. Okay, sodium chloride, that's basically a form of salt. Okay, and we will have CO2 getting liberated and water formed as well. So let's kind of quickly look into this, whether it is balanced or not. Na we have 2, so let's say 2 NaCl. We need to have 2 here as well. So now this seems to be perfectly okay. So for O3, and we have 3O here. So this is balanced. Okay, this is carbon dioxide in the form of gas. Carbon dioxide in the form of gas. Okay, and we have water. Okay, so these are the products that are formed. Okay, so metal carbonate. Now even if we treat metal hydrogen carbonate, if we take metal hydrogen carbonate, then also the same products are formed. So let's quickly look at this: metal hydrogen carbonate, metal hydrogen carbonate plus an acid. Metal hydrogen carbonate plus an acid will give a metal salt plus again carbon dioxide plus water. Okay, again the same thing, metal hydrogen carbonate plus acid is going to give us metal salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. Okay, so we are going to get almost the same products out here as well. Okay, so let's look at a metal hydrogen carbonate, for example, NaHCO3 plus, let's say we do again HCl. So what do we get here? NaCl plus H2O plus CO2. Okay, you can remember this equation like this: whenever you are treating sodium carbonate with HCl, you need to take 2 moles of HCl. Here you can just have 1 mole. See, the equation is balanced: 1 Na here, 1 Cl here, 1 Cl here, 2 H here, 2 H here, 3 O's, 1 O here, and the other one here. I'm so sorry, this is carbon dioxide. Okay, so again, so let's write it in the proper sequence of CO2, which is evolved as a gas, and H2O, which is evolved as water. So let's again write this. So this is sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is also known as sodium bicarbonate. Sometimes it is also known as okay, sodium bicarbonate. This is sodium bicarbonate, and we treat it with dilute hydrochloric acid. This is going to give you sodium chloride, which is in the form of a salt. So we have sodium chloride, which is in the form of a salt. We get carbon dioxide and in the form of gas, carbon dioxide in the form of gas plus H2, that is water. Okay, so whether you treat it with metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate. So see, metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate, if you treat it with acid, you are going to get metal salt, you are going to get carbon dioxide, and you are going to get water as well. Okay, so these are things that we are going to get. Okay, and now we will understand. See, in the previous case, as we understood, how is it that we recognize the hydrogen gas which is getting evolved.
So in this case also we will try and understand how is it that we will recognize the carbon dioxide which is getting evolved. So how is it that we will recognize the carbon dioxide which is getting evolved? Carbon dioxide is a gas. How can we recognize it? It is again a colorless, and an odorless gas, okay, odorless gas. So obviously you will not be able to recognize it by its any characteristic color, neither can you recognize it by its any characteristic smell. So we need to have other tests of it. So if in the case of hydrogen, when we were burning matchstick close to the evolving hydrogen gas, it was burning with a popping sound. In the same case, if we bring a burning matchstick close to a place where carbon dioxide is getting evolved, it will get extinguished, because carbon dioxide is an extinguisher. That's the reason we use carbon dioxide. When you actually toggle a fire extinguisher, the gas which is sprayed out is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a non-supporter of burning. So when it goes out, it forms a layer on the surface which is basically burning, and it cuts off the supply of air, and it doesn't support burning itself. So that's how it is. So if a burning matchstick is extinguished, then it has to be carbon dioxide. See, there are three gases basically in your syllabus which are colorless and odorless. One is hydrogen, the other one is oxygen, and the other one is carbon dioxide. And on three gases we can perform the same test of a burning matchstick. So when we perform a test of burning matchstick, bringing a burning matchstick close to a place where hydrogen gas is getting evolved, it burns with a popping sound. Okay, when we bring a burning matchstick close to a place where oxygen is getting evolved, it keeps on burning because oxygen supports burning. And when we bring a burning matchstick close to a place where carbon dioxide is getting evolved, we will see that it has carbon dioxide basically it doesn't support burning, so it gets extinguished. So all these forms of colorless and odorless gases can be tested first with a burning matchstick. The second test, or that's basically the confirmatory test that it is carbon dioxide, is the lime water test. Now what is lime water? Lime water is basically calcium hydroxide. This is called lime water. So the chemical name is calcium hydroxide, and calcium hydroxide is also known as by the common name of lime water. So when we treat or when we pass carbon dioxide to lime water, so even if you take a beaker and you put lime water in it and you blow off carbon dioxide into it by means of a pipe, you will see that the lime water turns milky. Okay, so lime water turns milky. Why? Because calcium carbonate is precipitated. Now let's say this is lime water, CaOH2, and you are blowing carbon dioxide into it. What are the products that are going to get formed? This will be calcium hydroxide plus this is calcium carbonate. I am so sorry. Calcium carbonate, okay, plus H2O. Okay, so calcium carbonate and H2O will be formed. If we look into this, let's say CO3, 3 plus 1, 4, 2 and 2, 4, carbon is 1, 1 and Ca, so it's a balanced equation. Now this is basically what lime water. Now why does lime water turns milky? By blowing carbon dioxide into it. Even if you pass carbon dioxide in the form of a gas, this is basically a liquid, okay, but you're passing carbon dioxide in the form of a gas to it, it will turn milky. Why? Because calcium carbonate, okay, it is a white precipitate. It is insoluble in water. Okay, calcium carbonate basically is insoluble in water. That's insoluble in water, and that's one reason why it forms a precipitate. So calcium carbonate basically is insoluble in water, and that's the reason it forms a white precipitate. So carbon dioxide basically has two tests. One, it extinguishes a burning matchstick when it is brought close to it, and the other one, when we pass on carbon dioxide to lime water, it turns milky. However, there is another thing that we need to notice and recognize. I will just add on here. If we pass on carbon dioxide for a very long time, okay, so let's understand this, because this has something to do with carbon dioxide, and at times people get confused that in spite of passing carbon dioxide, it is not turning lime water milky. Okay, so the other what happens is carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide is getting evolved, okay, there are two things that are happening. We can test it with a burning matchstick, gets extinguished, burning matchstick gets extinguished, okay. And if we are bringing carbon dioxide, or rather wherever the carbon dioxide is getting evolved from, and if we are, let's say this is lime water, okay, we are passing it into lime water. This is basically lime water. So wherever our reaction is happening, okay, and let's say carbon dioxide is getting evolved and this is lime water, this lime water in some time will turn milky. Why? Because the calcium carbonate is getting formed. However, there is one thing. See, this is a white precipitate. It is insoluble in water. White precipitate, and it is insoluble in water, okay. That's the reason we know that it is carbon dioxide, okay. So it's a white precipitate which is getting formed. Now if we pass on carbon dioxide into lime water, if we pass on carbon dioxide into lime water for a very long time, lime water for a very long time, if we pass on carbon dioxide into water for a very long time, then what precipitates? It's calcium hydrogen carbonate. Calcium hydrogen carbonate. What precipitates out is calcium hydrogen carbonate. Now calcium hydrogen carbonate is soluble in water. Now what happens is, see what has happened in the first case, calcium hydroxide, understand this, calcium hydroxide, we are passing carbon dioxide into it, okay. What is getting formed? Calcium carbonate, and that has got a milky appearance, and this is calcium carbonate plus water. Now if we keep on passing carbon dioxide for a very long time, what will happen? This calcium carbonate and water which are already formed, and again you are adding carbon dioxide, this will form calcium hydrogen carbonate, and this is something which is soluble. This is calcium hydrogen carbonate, and this is something which is soluble in water. This is soluble in water. Hence, again the solution will become colorless. See, what it was we had taken a sample of just get this rubbed off. So we are basically performing CO2 test, okay, and this is important because until unless CO2 is involved, the reaction will not be complete. So we have to define what are the things that are getting evolved. So CO2 is getting evolved. How do we test this? CO2, when it is passed into calcium hydroxide, which is lime water, it will turn milky. However, if we keep on passing CO2 for a very long time, okay, into calcium, why is it turning milky? Because it is forming CO3, okay. This is got a milky appearance. So this is basically colorless. Calcium hydroxide is colorless and it is soluble in water. This is soluble in water. However, when you pass CO2 into it, what it forms is calcium carbonate, which has a milky appearance. Why? Because it is a precipitate. It is insoluble in water. Insoluble in water. However, if you keep on passing carbon dioxide for a very long time, this calcium carbonate plus water is already there. This will form what? Calcium hydrogen carbonate. This is going to form calcium hydrogen carbonate, and this calcium hydrogen carbonate will be a problem, okay, because calcium hydrogen carbonate is colorless, okay. This is colorless. Calcium hydrogen carbonate is colorless, okay. So calcium hydrogen carbonate is colorless. So again your solution will turn colorless. So the test for carbon dioxide has to be done a little carefully, because it can only be recognized only in the earlier stages, because in earlier stages with lesser amount of carbon dioxide, the lime water is getting converted into a milky appearance of calcium carbonate. However, if you keep on continuing with passing of carbon dioxide as and when it is getting formed in the reaction, what will happen is that this carbon dioxide will now slowly start converting the calcium carbonate to calcium hydrogen carbonate, which is again colorless. So colorless solution, passing of carbon dioxide turns milky, again passing of carbon dioxide for a long time will turn it back to colorless, okay. Milky appearance is basically the test for carbon dioxide. Colorless solution of calcium hydroxide or lime water, passing carbon dioxide makes it milky as calcium carbonate. Passing carbon dioxide for a very long time makes it colorless again, because calcium hydrogen carbonate is formed. So we have to be careful about this test of carbon dioxide. Okay, I don't know how much of it you need to take a snapshot of, but certainly you can. And let's proceed ahead with the next slide. Alright, so let's continue with what we were doing in acids, bases and salts. So one of the common things that we see in our houses is basically whenever somebody is suffering from acidity. See, we are going to talk about neutralization reaction now. Okay, neutralization reaction, and it's one of the very important reactions because it is applicable for an acid and it is applicable for a base as well. Okay, so neutralization reaction is basically a reaction which is applicable in both the cases. It's applicable to an acid and it is applicable to a base as well. Just 1 minute. Right. So neutralization reaction is basically applicable to both an acid and a base. Okay, so when we are basically treating an acid with a base, it will form salt and water. So why do we call it as neutralization reaction? The reason why we call it as neutralization reaction is because the effect of acid and base both are neutralized. Okay, the effect of acid or base both are neutralized because they are forming a salt and water. We have to have our concepts very clear about what is a salt. Okay, we generally think that salt is basically sodium chloride. That's not the case. Okay, yes, sodium chloride is a kind of a salt, but every salt is not sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is basically also known as common salt. Okay, so common salt basically is sodium chloride. However, in acids or rather when we treat acids with bases, we form salts. Okay, so let's take an example here. So any acid we have, let's say HCl, and a base, let's say NaOH. Okay, so what will it form? This is basically an acid, that is hydrochloric acid. This is hydrochloric acid, and this is base, which is basically sodium hydroxide. Okay, so this is an acid and this is a base. What will it form? Sodium chloride plus water, that is H2O. Now this is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is basically also, this is a salt basically, sodium chloride, and it is also known as common salt. So this is a salt, okay, plus water. This is called neutralization reaction. Okay, let's say we have H2SO4, that is sulfuric acid, and we let's say treat it with potassium hydroxide. So this is again a strong acid, that is sulfuric acid, and it is treated with potassium hydroxide. Okay, potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide, that will form K2SO4, which is basically potassium sulfate, and this will form water. A very important reaction. The reason why it is considered as important is, one, because it has a lot of chemical uses. Okay, this salt plus water, a lot of salts are actually formed like this. Okay, so the reason why it is very important is because, one, it is a neutralization reaction, and the other one is because it has a lot of chemical applications as well. A lot of salts which are required for the manufacturing of many chemical compounds are based on this reaction. Okay, so as I started with this this slide, that whenever we are suffering with acidity, see why acidity happens is because acidity is basically the increase in acid content in our stomach. Okay, so acidity is nothing but increase in acid content, in our stomach. So acidity is nothing but increase in acid content in our stomach. Just one moment here. Check whether it is visible or not. Okay. So acidity is nothing but increase in acid content in our stomach, and this is basically directly proportional to the amount of food that we eat. More is the amount of food that we eat, so it is directly proportional. HCl is basically a very strong acid and is naturally produced in our body, and it is a part of the digestion process. Now HCl basically has a lot of functionalities. It first of all is very important for, it's first of all is very important for killing the germs in our food stuff that is there, and it is we will understand this in biology. For the time being, let's understand that HCl, when it is produced in excess quantities by consumption of food, can produce acidity. Okay, now acidity when it is produced in our stomachs, a general thing is, see, we generally take baking soda. Okay, if you dissolve baking soda in water and consume, it's a home remedy basically. Okay, when there's a lot of acidity that is happening, you can dissolve baking soda, which might be there available in our houses. It is used to make cakes and all. So if you dissolve baking soda and you consume it, so what will happen is this acidity, so let's say HCl is produced, baking soda is nothing but NaHCO3, that's sodium hydrogen carbonate. Okay, so what will be formed? It will form NaCl, okay, plus H2O. In this case, carbon dioxide is also released. Okay, so NaCl plus H2O plus CO2, that will be formed. Carbon dioxide which is released is obviously going out, and this basically neutralizes the acid content in our stomach. Okay, so acid causes inflammation in our stomach. Obviously acid is something which will cause inflammation, so this acid is neutralized by baking soda that we take. Okay, so baking soda is of course a home remedy. At times we also take milk of magnesia. Okay, milk of magnesia, this is nothing, this is a medicine basically. It's basically a pink colored medicine that we take in case of acidity, and this is nothing but magnesium hydroxide. Again, this is what? A base. Okay, magnesium hydroxide is a base. So if we happen to, so again, if HCl is treated with a medicine that is milk of magnesia, Digene and all that's basically made up of milk of magnesia. So what will happen? Again, MgCl2, so there will be 2 HCl plus H2O, salt plus water. See, salt will have a neutralizing effect. The inflammation that is produced by the acid in our stomach is kind of neutralized when we consume a base. Okay, so that's how salt and water are formed. So this is called a neutralization reaction, a very important reaction, but it's because it is applicable both ways. An acid can be neutralized by treatment with a base, and a base can be neutralized by treatment with an acid. So what we get as the final product is salt and water. Okay, so the same sort of reaction, so we are right now studying acids, so almost the same sort of reaction is formed by treating an acid with a metallic oxide. See, metallic oxides. One thing more that I would like to tell you here is that this acid plus base is equal to salt plus water. At times the questions might be a little confusing. Okay, so for example, we have the general reaction as acid plus base is equal to salt plus water. What about acid plus alkali? Okay, now at times it might be a little confusing. Now what does this mean? So alkali is nothing but a water soluble base. Not all bases are water soluble. So the bases which are basically soluble in water are also known as alkalis. So when we have an acid and an alkali, which is basically what? A water soluble base. So it is more or less what? A base, right? So again, the reaction is going to be the same, that is salt plus water. So the question can be confusing, that what do you get when you treat an alkali with an acid, or what do you get when you treat an acid with an alkali? So alkali is nothing but a water soluble base, that's it. Okay, so we do not need to confuse. The same neutralization reaction will be applicable. Now this neutralization reaction gets carried forward if we see a base is formed how? Base is formed when a basic oxide is treated with water. So we get basically a base. Okay, so we get base, for example, calcium oxide plus water, this is going to form CaOH2. So if we take a base or a basic oxide, which is again a very important ingredient for the base to get formed. So base or a basic oxide, both will have the same effect. So in that case, what we can write is, if we treat a basic oxide with an acid, still we are going to get salt and water. still we are going to get the same product of salt and water. For example, let's say we have copper oxide. Okay, we say copper oxide. This is basically what? A basic oxide. Any metallic oxide will be a basic oxide. So copper oxide is a metallic oxide. Copper oxide is a metallic oxide. We treat it with water, acid. So let's say this will form what? CuCl2. So this is copper oxide. This is copper oxide. You treat it with hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid. This will form copper chloride. This is going to form copper chloride plus water. Okay. So let's quickly balance this. Obviously it is not balanced because here we have 2H and here we have, so we put, now this is balanced. Okay. So this is again salt plus water. Salt plus water. So in case of a basic oxide, if we treat it with an acid, we will get again salt plus water. So in case of a base, obviously we will get salt plus water, but in case of a basic oxide as well, we will get salt plus water. Okay. So in both the cases we will get salt plus water. Let me just check whether it is visible. Okay. Okay, are we clear on this one? So irrespective of whether it is a base and an acid reaction which gives you salt or water, and in case of a basic oxide and acid also you will get salt plus water. Okay. So but neutralization reaction primarily is between acid and base. This is called the neutralization reaction. Why neutralization? Because both the acid and the base are getting neutralized in one simple reaction. So this is one property of acids. Okay, we have considered certain properties of acids. Then we have corrosion. Now this is a very important property of acids. Corrosion basically means eating up. Okay, eating up of acids, eating up by acids. So acids basically eat up metals, corrode. They basically make them weak. Okay, they corrode with metals, as we have seen. Acids react with metals to produce hydrogen gas. So that is already there. Then acids react with wood, acids react with cloth, acids react with skin. So they will have a corrosive effect. Corrosive means breaking down effect. Corrosive means an eating up. So any eating up of metals, or eating up of wood, eating up of cloth, eating up of skin by the reaction of acids is called corrosion. So this is called a corrosive effect. This is corrosion, and this is the property of acids. Bases also have the same property of corrosion. Certain strong bases are very corrosive in nature. So acids also are corrosive in nature. Okay. So corrosion basically is a big problem in acids because, and that's one reason why we cannot store acids in metallic containers. We cannot store acid in metallic containers. Okay, acids cannot be stored in metallic containers because they corrode metals. Very weak form of acid, as we have learned, is acetic acid, that is vinegar. Okay, this vinegar is added in pickles. If you remember, vinegar is added to manufacture pickles. And if you notice, when pickles are stored, they are not stored in metallic containers. In your house you will not find pickles getting stored in metallic containers. In fact, you should never use metallic containers to store anything which will have vinegar in it. Okay, so vinegar is basically an acid, and if you happen to store it in metallic containers, it will have a corrosive effect. Okay, so you will have to store in those glass containers, or you will have to use some kind of plastic to store it. Otherwise pickles cannot be stored in metallic containers. Even if you go to a shop to buy pickle of any kind, you will find that the container in which you are getting the supply will not be a metallic container. So some properties of acids that we have gone through, just to summarize. Okay, if we kind of quickly summarize the properties of acids that we have gone through, which includes their physical as well as chemical properties. Okay, so physical properties and chemical properties, just to summarize, there are very few properties that we have, and we are just doing a summary part of all the properties of acids. We will look into some fine-tuning properties. We are not yet done with acids. We will look into certain other aspects as well, but certain things which are for sure. One is that acids turn a red litmus, blue litmus red. Blue turns red. Very short, I am summarizing it. Acids turn blue litmus to red. Then acids react with bases to form salt and water. acids will react with bases to form salt and water. Okay, acids react with basic oxides, acids react with basic oxides or rather metallic oxides to form salt and water, the same thing. Then we have acids react with metals, to produce hydrogen gas is produced. Obviously salt is also produced, but hydrogen gas is produced. Again, acids react with metal carbonates, and in this what is produced? Carbon dioxide. Okay, again acids react with metal hydrogen carbonates, and in this what is produced? Carbon dioxide. Okay, the sixth property of acid is that they are corrosive in nature. Corrosive in nature means that they have a tendency to eat up metals. Strong acids are very corrosive. Weaker acids are also corrosive to an extent. However, the corrosiveness is a little slower. But any which ways, both are corrosive. So these were certain properties of acids. Please make a note of it. We have discussed it at length, and we will discuss them further